Man has come to rely on natural water bodies and ultimately the ocean as the world's biggest treatment plant. This is most evident in most coastal towns and cities where infrastructure can't keep up with pollution and untreated wastewater flows directly into the ocean. Untreated wastewater causes numerous problems globally.
Water from bathroom, any water coming out of your house, we recommend that you channel it into your septic tanks. The reason being that most people channel it into the drain. Those things are called storm drains. They're actually only expected to be wet when it rains, okay? Because it channels water away from your houses. Anything else coming out of your house is expected to go into your septic tank because there are microbiological processes that are going on in your septic tank that requires water. Most of us, direct the water into the drains and leave a sludge that is difficult to decompose in our septic tanks, and it shouldn't work like that. So those are all regulations that are coming up because those also affect the supply of groundwater services that you have.
The importance of the ocean is not matched by the human knowledge. The fact remains that it is still relatively unexplored. The formulation of sustainable ecosystem-based policies and measures for oceans and coasts needs to be supported by science, including research and observations.
The ocean science all over the world is an expensive science. We are the extent to which we are putting money in science and in the ocean science in Nigeria, we are scratching it on the surface. You can't compare us with a country like China that has 3 ocean-related research institutes and are having the state-of-the-art type of equipment and are continuously developing and training their human resources. We need to key into this by looking at very serious investment by the government and the private sector in investing in serious aspect of funding research.
The ocean is a vital source of nourishment, especially to people in the world's poorest nations. Many depend on fish for their primary source of protein. Fisheries and aquaculture support the livelihoods of about 540 million people. That's about 8% of the world's population, directly or indirectly. Overfishing, loss of biodiversity, and the possible extinction of species put a stress on these limited resources. This could lead to famine, increased poverty, and conflict, including war.
The biodiversity agenda is not just about a problem. Yes, we have a problem. We're losing biodiversity very fast, and that will have consequences because we take it for granted. We depend on biodiversity for many, many things, and we're losing the capacity of the natural ecosystems to provide the goods and services which we count on for our daily lives.
Considering that the source of so many of our food forms come from the water, so much of our protein comes from water, all different types of fish, shellfish, mollusks, shrimp, all these things come from the water, and they breed in calm water. That's the inland waters where it's less saline. And if we're now going to continue disturbing their breeding grounds by polluting them and doing sand filling, then we're killing off a very viable source of protein food, which is very essential for human life. If we're going to be killing off our protein food, we're going to have a lot of problems. And research has already shown that a lot of our inland waterways are now suffering terribly from man's impact on them.
The ocean absorbs approximately 26% of the CO2 added to the atmosphere from human activities each year, greatly reducing the impact of this greenhouse gas on the climate. When CO2 dissolves in seawater, carbonic acid is formed. It is this chemical reaction that leads to ocean acidification. Ocean acidity has increased by 30% since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Ocean acidity increases the amount of energy needed by many small ocean organisms in constructing their carbonate shells and structures, and in some places will make it impossible for these organisms to live. It causes seawater to become corrosive to the shells and skeletons of numerous marine organisms, affecting their reproduction and physiology. This will have impact on ocean ecosystems that science is still examining. Within decades, the chemistry of the tropical oceans will not sustain coral reef growth, while large parts of the polar oceans will become corrosive to some marine organisms.
Again, there is no proper checks on effluent from industries. And this is something that, here where we are, the Lagos state government needs to enforce and should be continuously monitoring what people are putting into the lagoon. Obviously, it has a huge knock-on effect. I mean, you never know what half of the effluent, what is contained in half of the effluents, whether there is mercury or whatever. And of course, this affects the whole food chain. And you see the local fishermen out there where the colour of the lagoon is almost bright red. And somebody should be looking into this to see what is being pumped into the lagoon, because it's going to have a health hazard in the long term.
In this country, there are guidelines on industrial discharges. So as we sit here now, there are these guidelines that were drawn up by FEPA of those days, that maybe for a particular chemical, the level in the discharge coming out from your factory must not exceed ABC. Those ones are there. But in terms of enforcement, I would not be too confident to say that the enforcement has been thorough. But the regulations are there.
Government should be enforcing the what is discharged into the lagoon. Individuals can never do that. Individuals, your local fishermen, as I was saying, they are striving for a living. So they will catch fish irrespective, which are then passed on to the consumer. You don't know what those fish are containing, what sort of harmful heavy metals, the fish are containing. And so this should be checked as well. Obviously, everybody likes fish. We're in this coastal area. And of course, we have the same effects offshore. The level of pollution is high. You see, as we were saying earlier, you see the oil on the beaches because the discharge from a lot of the boats that linger offshore, sometimes for weeks on end. And again, it needs for these laws on pollution to be rigorously enforced.